This special edition of our podcast may contain language and discussion of topics that are not suitable for all viewers.
I'm Sacramento County District Attorney Tin Ho. You're listening to our podcast, Off the Record, where we go beyond the headlines to share real case stories and give you a behind-the-scenes look. We'll dive into public safety topics and explore how our office is working to deliver justice, both in and out of the courtroom. Let's get started.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Off the Record podcast, and this is a special DUI feature. I am Deputy District Attorney Courtney Martin. I'm currently the lead Deputy District Attorney for the DUI and DUID misdemeanor prosecution, education, and outreach program. This program is funded by a grant from the California Office of Traffic Safety through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Today, we're very pleased to be joined by Rhonda Campbell, who is the Victim Services Manager at Mothers Against Drunk Driving, MADD, and also with Marcus Allen. And perhaps both of you, before we get started, can tell us a little bit about yourselves and what brings you to the podcast today.
Sure. I guess you go first, friend.
Okay. Yes, my name is Rhonda Campbell. I am the Victim Services Manager for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, California. What brings me to this table is that in 1981, my 12-year-old sister was killed by an impaired driver who was a repeat offender on a suspended license. And all of the years between now and then, I've spent training to be an advocate for MADD and to help victims of these impaired driving crashes. And so I didn't know where my future was going to take me, but lucky for me that I'm able to do that now in memory of my sister.
And we're always so thankful for all that you contribute to our work at the DA's office,
Thank
Rhonda.
you. Thank you.
Mark, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, too.
Sure. I'm a lifelong broadcaster. I've been doing it most of my life. And then for the last 10 years plus, I'm a feature film producer, writer, and director. And then also have had some form of national show. Currently, I'm on ABC television. I've been there for the last 10 years. And I've been doing a network and global show for them as well called Take a Look. And for the last 10 years, I've been friends with Rhonda talking about the fact that I'm a DUI offender. Not one time, but 2 times. Never 3 times. And it's my mission to get those numbers down and have the stats show up where there are 0 drunk driving incidents.
And we're so thankful that you're here to share your story with us. So maybe starting now, you can just tell us about your career path. You just shared a little bit, but a little bit more about how you became a public personality and what your life looked like before your DUIs.
So I was born in the middle of nowhere, Texas. If you've ever seen a series called Landman, that's precisely where I was born. My high school is featured in the open of that. And that's where it started. And I knew I wanted to be in entertainment from a very young age. And if you tell that to someone in the middle of nowhere, Texas, they look at you like you're an alien and from another planet. And so the quickest way into entertainment was radio. So I started out as a radio broadcaster. It took me to L.A. From that, I segued into television, had a show on Comedy Central for a few years called Short Attention Span Theater, and then came back to California to start developing film projects and working locally for a show called Good Day Sacramento.
Rhonda, did you know Mark during any of that time?
Not at all, other than he was on my TV every morning when he started that Good Day Sacramento spot. So interesting relationship in that they have no idea who we are, but we feel like we know everything about them, right? And so that's really all I knew about him.
I also grew up watching it, so.
Thank you. I'm both humbled, pleased, and also starting to feel I need a walker. So I might get out of this.
So you've very graciously agreed to share your story with us. So maybe you can take us back and talk about your DUI convictions. One was in Sacramento in 2006, right? And one was in 2016 in Placer County. So tell us about that first DUI incident. What was going on leading up to that?
So I would think personally, like anyone looking at me from the outside wouldn't think that I had any kind of issue with alcohol. I had no situations publicly ever with it. Had been wine tasting at an event, and a friend got an alert on her phone that her flight had been moved up and needed to get to the airport. So took her to the airport and was probably driving faster than I needed to, and was pulled over by, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe off-duty sheriff patrol. The airport was pulled over, and he said, "I think I smelled alcohol in your breath. I'm going to treat this as a potential DUI, so I need you to sit tight. I'm bringing someone in." called the police department. Police showed up, and it happened to be having been on television, interacting in that way with law enforcement for a long time. I knew this person. The police officer says, "Oh no, it's you," and she put me through the ringer, all of the practical DUI testing and maneuvers, and I passed that. And then the breathalyzer showed that I was 0.09, 0.10 at that time, and I was arrested. And went through all of the programs and paid the fines and knew how serious it was, and was incredibly embarrassed and sad that I had done that to my family and to my coworkers, and pledged to never do it again. And then slowly things started going out of control, and almost 10 years to the month later, I was pulled over again. This was an entirely different situation, though. I shouldn't have been behind the wheel of a car. I probably knew that before I got behind the wheel of the car that time. And I was at least 3 times over the limit. I spilled out, and I knew my life was in peril at that time. And I just remember in the process of being arrested going, oh, this is where my life is going to change.
Yeah.
And I knew that was the beginning of where we would be right now.
So tell us a little bit about that change, what happened after your arrest, about the court process, and any programs that you did that helped make that change.
I went through all of the court-ordered programs at that time, and there was one intense counseling session where I had the blessing of having this great guy named Quinn, who really got through to me. And it's not like I wasn't contrite. I was super sad that I had done this, and completely ashamed of myself for not being a one-time, but now a 2-time offender. I've told people that this was never going to happen before, and now it's happened again. And he helped me just spot some things in my life that needed to be corrected and changed. And he's the one who said, you've been really transparent with everybody. He said, we don't have to, these classes, we have to crack people open. And he said, you've been open since the day you've been here. He said, I think that's your gift. You need to work with that. And so that's when I started reaching out to the Roseville PD and said, I want to be involved. And they said, well, we can't talk to you until you finished your service. And so I did go to jail. I did hire an attorney just to check all the boxes, but I instructed my attorney, I don't want this sentence knocked down. I want to the full extent that they're going to serve. And if you talk to the Placer County DA, they'll say, yeah, it was odd because he wasn't asking for any reduction in the sentence, just for due process. And so I believe, safe to say, they threw the book at me, and I'm grateful for them doing that because I needed correction, and it worked. I did some time, and I would say every nuance of that, every moment of that corrected me. That's why we have correctional facilities, to correct people. And I'm telling you, for me, it worked. I will never go back there, not only because I don't want to be subjected to that again, but I never want to put someone's life in danger again.
Rhonda, you mentioned that you were aware of Mark through his TV career and show here in Sacramento. What did you hear about Mark's arrest? Tell us about that.
So yeah, I'd heard about it when it came out. When the second arrest happened in 2016, is when I found out there had been a first arrest. And again, I didn't know Mark personally, but I felt like I did. So I felt personally harmed by his decisions. And at that time, I was a volunteer for MAD. I wasn't even working for MAD, and I stewed about it to the point where I said, I've got to talk to Mark about this because I felt like he really personally offended me. And I sent him an email that I've just reread that was nicer than I remember it being, asking him to basically, come with me, support MAD, put it out there what you've done and that you want to make a difference. And within 4 hours, he responded and he said, I'll be there. His exact words were, we'll be tied at the hip. And we were. He showed up at a MAD event. He walked it with me. He brought a camera crew. He put his money where his mouth is, and he did what I asked him to do, which I was really impressed with.
I think it was thanks to your cooperation when I reached out to, now I've served my time. I reached out to Roseville PD and I said, I want to do a ride along with my arresting officer, and I want to broadcast that live, and I'd like Rhonda to be there as well. And so on the anniversary of that first arrest, we were joined at the hip to do that live broadcast. Subsequently, I became friends with that arresting officer, and have done some version of that every year thereafter. But I mean, she said something that will stick with me forever, is that you look at every offender as the person that took your sister away from you. And I remember thinking, your sister was 12 at the time, and I looked over at my son, Jackson, who was 12 at the time, and I thought, what kind of jerk was I to be out there putting these lives of any age in jeopardy? And and at the same time, we all have brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and moms and dads and cousins that are probably doing that every single day, not intending to put someone's life at risk, but it's all a simple choice. Don't drink and drive. And you said, that's all we got to get out there.
That's it.
It's that simple.
100% preventable 100% of the time.
I'd also like to point out that ABC 10 is the station that broke the story of my arrest. They hired me 6 months later, but they were doing their job.
Oh, gosh.
Tell us a little bit more about that collaboration between the two of you over these 10 years now. And really, maybe, Rhonda, you can speak to how unusual is it for a DUI offender to take responsibility and then want to participate like this with MAD and raising awareness about DUIs?
It's extremely unusual. I will tell you that most of the time when I'm reached out to by an offender, it's because they're being required to fulfill something through the courts, which we don't do that. In this case, Mark, not only being a public figure in Sacramento, being somebody who's taken accountability and responsibility for a choice that he made, it was a perfect situation for me, even before I was an employee of MAD, to say, let's make a difference together. And I think that when you see somebody take accountability to the level that Mark has, it inspires other people who don't have those outlets for the accountability to seek it and to get out there and do something to make a difference and make a change. And that's what I'm hoping this relationship does.
Yeah. Maybe, Mark, you can speak to something you've alluded to a little bit, that people have misunderstandings or misconceptions about DUIs. And what have you learned through this process regarding that? What do you want people to know, maybe on the education side, that would help them correct their behavior?
Just that it could be anyone. It could be you. You could be doing this, not anyone present, not making judgment here in this room, but I mean, it literally could be anyone. We all have peers and friends and family that it could be happening to. The choice is just simple: not to drink and drive. We're not asking anyone to teetotal. I took 8.5 years off of drinking altogether just to, make sure that I was sturdy. I was never deemed an alcoholic. I mean, everyone's going to have their own issue if they get a DUI. Not every person that gets a DUI is an alcoholic. Some are. If you get multiple DUIs, even more so, you need to look deeper into it. But I guess that's the misconception. A lot of people think, and it's a very antiquated thought, that, that's only the severe drunks, the severe alcoholics and partiers that are driving drunk. Really, it's not. It's the person that had a drink at lunch. It's that person that had one drink. This time, maybe they forgot to eat enough during that happy hour, and it puts them over. It could really be anyone. And another thing that I'm glad that I had a chance to clear up, this second DUI came with the onset of social media. That didn't exist with my first DUI. So the public opinion was out there for me to look at. And sadly, for every person that said, "You jerk, how dare you be out there drinking and driving? You should be locked up and never in public again, never broadcast again, never be behind the wheel of a car again." For as many of those people, there were people that said, "Oh, they did you wrong, man. We've all done that. They shouldn't have done that." And that's the louder reason I want to be a part of all this, to say they absolutely should have done their job. They did the right thing, and we shouldn't be drinking and driving. Don't look for excuses to do it. Don't commonize it. Don't make it okay. It's not.
Yeah. So tell us about that. You mentioned kind of the shame, the embarrassment that goes into an arrest like this. What did make you feel ready to return to the public eye despite those voices?
I think, Quinn, who's also a friend of mine, formerly my counselor, I think when he just said, your readiness to be transparent about all of this, he said, that's a gift, and you better use that for good. So with that said, I think I was ready from day one. I was ready to be out there. My former employer had me on the sideline. I wasn't terminated. I was just kind of sidelined for one. I said, no, but let me tell this story. Whether you're going to eventually fire me or not, at least let me address it now. I wanted to be out there from the beginning.
How has this experience changed your approach to storytelling, journalism?
It's made me completely impatient with people that are less than transparent. And I'm telling you, the media outlets that are demanding transparency from everyone, that they themselves are not transparent. Their corporation isn't transparent. Their process of gathering and putting news out there isn't transparent. So
Yeah.
I have zero patience with that. I hate the hypocrisy in that. So if that, I just think we should be more transparent in storytelling and also when we turn the cameras back around on ourselves.
Yeah. For both of you, what changes would you like to see? It could be legal or educational, cultural, that would make an impact on this issue, because we see DUIs, if not rising, at least staying steady in our county year after year. Maybe Rhonda, you can speak to that.
So obviously the first answer is we need more accountability, and that needs to start in the justice system, and that's something we could talk about for hours, but that's the number one change. We need accountability. But aside from that, I'm learning as I work with more people in Mark's position or people that are actually incarcerated that there aren't a lot of programs that relate specifically to DUI rehabilitation when somebody's incarcerated. And I feel like that's another opportunity we're missing, to educate them and give them the tools to do better, to get out and be transparent like Mark and use that as a form of therapy to do good. So, I think accountability from the first DUI moving forward needs to be a little bit stronger. And then when people are convicted on multiple offenses, I think that we need to have better tools and harsher punishments, quite frankly, so that they actually take the time to accept accountability for what they've done and to learn what they need to do better.
What do you think, Mark?
And correct me if I'm wrong, do you see that the younger generation, the generations that's coming up, don't you feel like you're at least starting out with a better footprint, a better foundation with the next
100%,
generation?
100%.
I know my kids, and perhaps because of me being their dad and seeing what I went through, but I think generally just their age group. They look at drinking and driving like, why would you ever do that? There's never an excuse to do that. Whereas my generation, and some of this may be being from the middle of nowhere, Texas, but my generation in that region, if you got arrested for drinking and driving, it must mean that you spilled out of a car and cans came out with you or bottles spilled out everywhere. You had to, you would have to not be able to walk in order to get a DUI back in the day. And I think that was a misconception. And I think the zero tolerance attitude is really embedded in this younger generation. We just probably need to keep that, sustain that, grow it, and take care of the elderly folks like me, making sure they shore up.
I was watching a movie from probably 20 years ago, and there was a lot of just very casual drinking and driving. It wasn't a part of the movie plot. It was the main characters, the heroes. And I thought, that is not something I think you would see today in a movie. I think that element would be out of it.
It is. And I think, part of what I'm really proud of the work that MAD does is we are in the schools. We are conveying this message to not just kids that are driving, but kids before they're driving. We actually rolled out a program in the last couple of years for elementary school kids. And that's because the national average for a kid to consider or think about their first experience with alcohol is the age of 9. So if we wait until they already have a license, we've waited too long. So we're getting into the schools as young as elementary school kids, middle schoolers, high schoolers, and even college, with educational programs that are designed at their learning level to help educate them about how dangerous not only is drinking and driving, but underage drinking, how it affects your development in your future as a human.
We're excited to continue partnering with MAD on some of those educational programs. And at the DA's office, we also do a youth academy as well as a citizens academy and other educational programs where we raise awareness, including this podcast, about DUIs. So as we wrap up, is there anything that either of you would like to add about your partnership, about the work that MAD has done, about the work that you've done, Mark, or this issue in general?
I just want to thank you for reaching out to me and taking a leap of faith and being my friend through all of this. I've pledged my loyalty and friendship to you, and I will never forget this, young lady. And as you stare back at me, I know that I'm always going to be an offender. I will always be an offender, but I'm your friend, and I'm here for you.
Thank you.
And society can do better.
Yeah, they
Just
can.
don't drink and drive.
And you are helping me make that difference. And I thank you for being transparent and vulnerable and willing to put yourself out there and step beside me to get this message out. We're going to save some lives together.
It's an honor. Thanks for having me, too.
Yeah, thank you both. We really appreciate it. And our message from the DA's office is that DUIs are 100% preventable 100% of the time. And we encourage you to watch this podcast, share it with friends and family, and continue to raise awareness about the dangers of drinking and driving. Thank you.
You've been listening to Off the Record. I hope this episode encourages you to stay informed and inspired. Follow us on social media for updates and behind-the-scenes content from our office. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time for more stories that matter.